Greetings, everyone. This is Payman Lorenzo, your host, your friend, your coach of the Leaders Without podcast. Today, I have a repeat with a good friend of mine, Pan Vera. We did a wonderful episode, first one, about a week ago, and we had such a beautiful conversation that we barely scratched the surface as to what the structure had for this. We just started jamming, and we had to reschedule for a second one because I had a podcast right after that. So Pan is going to be back here today for part two. Welcome again, my friend.
I'm so glad to be here. Yeah, I was really amazed at the end of our last session to notice that we had talked for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Seemed like it was about 30 minutes.
Yeah, we had a nice conversation, even 45 minutes, an hour just before going live. And after by the time looked at the time, it was almost 2 hours. So, well, where did that 2 hours go? you know,
Yeah.
that's what happens. Anyways, so first of all, how are you doing today?
Well, I'm sweltering here.
Yes.
It's almost 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which I
Wow.
think is in the
That's 40,
40s, isn't it?
45. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
Pretty damn
And,
hot.
and a few days ago, I was working with a group out of London, and they were experiencing these kind of temperatures, and
Yes.
that for them was shocking. Whereas in New Mexico, it's not totally unusual to break 100.
Yeah, there's been a massive heat wave in Europe these days.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Don't know if these are natural or man-made or whatever, but it is kind of crazy to see what's going on in the world.
It sure is. Yeah.
There's a lot of massive protests that are not being reported, but worldwide, something big is brewing. I have a feeling in the background.
Payman, I believe that really strongly. And
Mhm.
as an empath, I feel it. Am I nervous and anxious because of what I ate or what, and I can't find anything. And then I actually mention it on some of my sessions that I'm doing with people. It seems like something really significant is happening on the planet right now. And they say.
Yeah, one of my cousins was telling me he's planning to go to Panama, one of the safest places in the Americas, in the next 2 weeks. And I was just browsing this morning on Instagram and I saw a feed, something that says, wow, there's a massive protest currently in Panama. But of course, you never see that in the news. Anyways, I don't watch the news, but I just found out through Instagram. So that right away, them say, hey, brother, be careful. Yeah, it is crazy.
Yeah. It's
Anyway.
The opposite of Childhood's End, which is one of my favorite science fiction stories by one of the early masters. But everybody's dancing. Nowadays, everybody's protesting with good reason.
Awesome. So let's jump right back where we left off at the end of part one. So we talked first of all about getting to know you a little bit as a person. Now we're going to transition straight into talking about your story. So there's a very powerful saying. I'm sure you heard it. It says, "Change your story, change your life." And by story, I mean what we tell ourselves all day long between our two ears. So when you were at your lowest, how did you change your story to change your life? Did you do that through the help of friends, family, relatives, books, mentors, videos? Tell us a process you used to get yourself back on track and change your story to change your life.
I guess the lowest point in my life was when I came home. I was a tree planter at the time. Mm-hmm. And my wife met me at the door and she said, "You've been," I was going to say excommunicated, but disowned by your family.
Wow.
And I said, "Whoa, how do you know that?" "Well, a letter came for you. It was registered mail." "Well, let me read it." "We burned it." "Why do you mean we burned it?" I called my mom, read her the letter, and she said I should burn it. So I did. So that was very shocking, as you can quite imagine.
Who sent it?
And my father.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I just want to get to this part first before I go on to talk about what happened then.
Sure.
Just about 5 years ago, I was talking to my sister about how I felt about being disowned by our father. And she said, "He didn't disown you." "What do you mean?" well, I got a copy of his letter. I'll photocopy it and send it to you. And he hadn't. He was concerned because as a colonel in the army, he was very unhappy that I was protesting against the war. And he said, if you're doing this because you believe it's right, I have no problem with that. But if you're doing it because it's what your wife wants you to do, then I would have to disown you, which is radically different.
For sure. Wow.
Yeah. So I can remember walking along the highway. My car had broken down and I had about 5-mile walk to get to a place where I could get somebody who might be able to come and help me out. And I just let myself feel the grief and the separation and the fear of what my life might be like. And instead of fighting that and railing against the universe and whatnot, I just realized, okay, I'm fine. I'm on my own. That's okay. I can handle it. So that's not much of a dramatic change in story. Here's one that's really significant. One day I woke up. I don't know if I mentioned this in our previous recording, but I didn't know who I was and I didn't know where I was. I was happy because I had nothing to worry about, nothing, no complaints, no worries. But eventually I realized that my bladder knew where the bathroom was, and that got me on a bed. And I did what I could to clear my mind, and it did clear. And so I realized a few days later that I had accomplished the 12th stage of burnout syndrome, complete mental breakdown. My short-term memory was shot. My ability to do the work that I was doing was impossible. I remember that first morning, I eventually got to my computer and there was something right in the middle of the desktop. I opened it up and it was a spreadsheet and it had something like 22 sheets in it. And it was a mystery. It might as well have been written in ancient Greek.
Wow.
So things happened and I won't go into the details about all the things that happened, but I was just to say that the board of the Center for Nonviolent Communications arranged for me to go to a retreat center in Costa Rica to do some recovery. And it was perfect because it was one of those places where nobody spoke until after 5 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So I came back home. I thought I was much better than I was, but things didn't work out very well. And my sister came to help me out, and her way of helping me out was to get the other women from my work group to come over, and they took everything out of all the kitchen cabinets and rearranged it. And then
that's one thing women love doing. I know.
Oh, they did. Yeah, they were having a great old time. Okay, you can come back in now. And doesn't it look beautiful? And yeah, it looked really beautiful. And I was kind of happy until I went to cook.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't find anything.
Wow. Yeah, that's what happens. Can't find where did you put this? Where did you put this?
Yeah,
Come on.
Right. Yeah. So I acted like a 2-year-old. I screamed and fought and blah, 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 could you blah, 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 blah. And so my sister went one way and I went upstairs where my bedroom was. And I'm feeling kind of bad because never had liked being angry. And I was looking down into the kitchen where I had been cooking, and all of a sudden I wasn't there anymore. I was about 2 years old, and I wanted to sit in my mother's lap. And my mother put her arm down to push me away. And what she said was, "I'm nursing your brother."
Oh,
but that went right over my head.
sure. Especially as a 2-year-old. Yeah.
Yeah. And I made decisions about myself, that I wasn't important, that I'd been replaced. I didn't really belong in the family anymore. Quite logical conclusions for a 2-year-old. But I was seeing it with the inner watcher, the soul of a 70-year-old.
Wait a second.
So
Can you make those kind of conclusions a 2-year-old? His understanding of a 2-year-old is pretty limited and it's just very linear, but yeah, I get it. Yeah. Wow.
Well, I once had a therapist who said you have the greatest connection with your unconscious and subconscious mind of anyone I've ever
Sure.
worked with. And
Absolutely.
I think I may have mentioned my crib story when I was even younger. So anyway, that's what happened with me. And I could see what a mistake it was. And I could see how it impacted my life.
Sure.
You know, and then also, you know, that whole experience of, oh, you've been disowned. And I didn't have to believe that anymore.
Mhm.
I didn't have to believe that anymore. So I fell back on my spiritual practices and went through what lasted for about at least 18 months.
Mhm.
After 6 months, my separation stipend was exhausted. I became homeless, traveled around for a while. And I always knew that I had two choices. And one choice was to surrender to what was happening in a defeated sort of way. And the other choice was to consider that it's the best thing that could have happened for me. And the only thing is, I didn't quite know what the lesson was yet. And that incident that I had was like the first of 7, where suddenly I was transported, obviously from my unconscious mind, because smells, sights, sounds, everything was there.
Mhm.
When I had had similarly gone through experiences and drawn conclusions that were not life-serving at all. So instead of calling it a breakdown, call it a breakthrough.
Absolutely, that's what they are. You know, that reminds me of something similar. I went through the longest of times for a good 10 years, I would say. I don't know where that came from, how it started, but as soon as I was either reading, hearing, or seeing certain words like failure, fail, losing, loser, whatever, I felt something deep inside of me that it was almost speaking to me. I felt something, but then maybe it was a reflection of what I was going through at the time. But eventually, you know, I just started, you know, doing all these, you know, reading positive thinking and all those, you know,
Yeah.
I read all of the books they talk, listened to all those tapes, you know, Tony Robbins and all those guys and all that. But even
Zig
that wouldn't,
Ziglar?
yeah, exactly. You know, but that wouldn't do anything. It would just do like a momentary boost. But after a few minutes, back to
Yeah.
before. You're not good
Mhm.
enough. What do you think you are? You know, look at you. Look at other people your age that are already, you know, fully established. Because I decided not to go to law school, instead decided to go the entrepreneur route. Sure, it was a lot more fun, but a lot less stable financially, as you can
Oh,
imagine.
yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
but eventually, I would say only, and I swear to you, only the past year and a half, I noticed that just as incredibly they appeared, now they just disappear. When I see those words now, they don't do anything to me now.
Mhm.
Maybe it was some kind of energy around me or whatever, but now, and also that reflects also a reflection of what's going on in my life. Now I see more opportunities. I see more financial stability now. I guess it's true what they say, as within, as without. What you feel inside, you know, it manifests itself outside of you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I used to think that if your point of view is that the world is a poverty-stricken place, then that's what your life experience is.
Really.
And your attitude and your attention determine your experience in life.
Absolutely.
Did you ever read Tolkien's books, the Lord of the Ring trilogy?
I haven't read the book, but I loved watching the movies, and I will definitely have to rewatch them again because I
Yeah.
was absolutely hooked. I love those movies. I watched them a few times, and those are long
Uh,
movies, but I love them. But the book,
yeah.
that's on my list.
Okay. So there was one scene in it where oh no, I'm thinking of Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Okay.
That's book. And one of those books, there's quite a few of them. C.S.Lewis, was that who's wrote those? Anyway, there's these people who've been taken prisoner by the lion and all the good guys and whatnot. And so they're held in a really nice room, a suite, and there are silver plates and goblets and whatnot, but they're demanding that they get lead plates and that they have a cup, a lead cup. They're not even seeing what was right in front of them. So as you say, as within, so without, or as above, so below.
You know, it might seem cheesy that the line that says, whatever you think about and focus on manifests itself. It is not cheesy. It is real. It is really true, because I've seen that happen in my life so much that it's almost defies any logic. You know, certain things are not meant for us to understand. We just need to surrender, accept it, embrace it, and go with the flow. Like, for example, me and you, unless you're you say you're a mechanical engineer, you don't understand when you flip the switch, lights comes on automatically. When you turn on the key in your car, the car starts moving and comes to life. Unless you're a mechanical engineer, you want to understand the process, but we don't need to understand it. We just need to know, trust, and surrender. It's going to work when you switch, when you turn on the ignition or when you switch the light, it's going to do what's supposed to. The same thing here. When you just focus on what you want, unless you're a PhD in psychology, you will not understand it. But the good news is you don't need to understand it. You just trust it. You know?
Hey, I'd like to put a card in for Isaac, a real good friend of mine, Isaac Nelson.
Okay.
And he is, do you know who he is?
No.
He's not really well known, but he's an awesome guy. He is, he's a quantum physicist.
Oh, wow.
And he studies and writes on synchronicity. And his theory is that if you have a strong emotional desire or repulsion about something, then the universe will start giving you experiences, possibilities of running into synchronistic experiences that will bring you whatever it is you have felt that is going on in your world. So there's some scientific proof, in my opinion, that when we talk about you get what you want, your attitude determines your life, there's math to show that now.
Oh, yeah. Another saying that is cheesy and very popular is be careful what you ask for. Or just, you know, if you want to quote the Bible, ask and you shall receive, you know, it is so true. Just make it clear what you want to the universe, to the Bible, to whatever you believe in. Believe in it. I was actually just on my feed on YouTube this morning. There was a recommendation that says well, let me just bring it up right now because it's very powerful. It's a book by Neville Goddard. Yes, have you heard of that guy? An extremely amazing, you know, author he was very famous in the 1920s to 1940s. It's called Feeling is a Secret.
Feeling is a secret?
Yes, you need to feel it first. It's not, don't try to say it with word what you want, because your subconscious mind never doesn't understand words, but it understands feeling. Everything is feeling, energy, vibration, frequency. Yeah. Just put yourself in a state of mind that you already have it, whatever it is, whether it's the result you want, the love you want, the business you want, whatever it is, put yourself in a state of mind. And that's also what NLP teaches. You know, for example, let's say you're an athlete or high power, you know, executive. Put yourself in a moment where you hit that perfect shot, you know, relive that in your mind. It's going to put you in that mindset. Or for example, imagine you just close $1 billion deal as a high powered executive. You know, you feel amazing. So put yourself in that and go into whatever you're doing, whether it's a new business meeting and if you're an athlete, another game or another sales call, if you're a business person or whatever, replay in your mind, not the failures, but the wins, the highs.
Yeah, the wins, right.
Because again, the secret is in the feeling. The universe doesn't understand words. Like you don't say, please, I want to have my goal become reality. It doesn't understand that.
No.
But it does understand feelings, because feeling is energy, is frequency, is vibration.
Absolutely.
And that's so powerful. I'll send you that video. I want to watch it later tonight. It's about 30 minutes. Look for anything from Neville Goddard. Incredibly smart American, you know, I don't know what you can call him. Philosopher, author, motivational speaker. from the first part of the 20th century.
Yeah,
Absolutely phenomenal guy.
I'll check that out. And I just wanted to share a story that really blew me away. After
Yeah.
after Vietnam War was over and prisoners were released from Hanoi, there was a man who had spent his years in prison thinking about, going through his mind and his body, golf.
Oh, yes.
And he did it every day just to avoid the horrible things that were happening to him. Even when he was being tortured, his being was swinging that golf club. And the reason I learned about it is he came back, got into a tournament, and won it.
And
And
that's
he had
probably
been,
how, and I would wager a lot of money to say that the fact that he was focusing on not the pain, not the all the horrible things happening to him, but on that golf course, on that golf play that he loves, that's probably one of the main reasons he was
yeah,
able to stay alive.
yeah, I'm quite sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow, powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Life is funny when you understand the game. Life becomes, quite straightforward once you understand it and surrender to it, accept it, embrace it, and go with the flow.
yeah. I think that's really true. And I really love what you said about the importance of our emotions,
Oh, absolutely, it's everything.
because
Because we are energy. We are frequency. And what are emotions? That's exactly what it is.
that's right. Yeah, yeah. As an empath, I know that.
It's
So I'm
energy.
feeling really great. It's not the one I'm picking up
Really?
here.
Yeah.
Okay, you got me. My girlfriend broke up with me.
Well, celebrate that. We have a saying in French: one lost, 10 waiting in line for you. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or there's a saying: anytime a door closes, two others open right after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look at it from the
Yeah.
perspective of the half full, not the half empty glass.
Yeah. Exactly.
Wow, powerful. Now let's move forward. So
Okay.
tell us about the impact you're having in the world. Tell us about the business you're building currently.
Okay. So I probably mentioned this in the first part of what we're doing, but um, my life changed completely when I met Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, the creator of nonviolent communication.
Okay.
And I was just blown away in 5 minutes with what he was saying, because two reasons. First of all, because I've always been fascinated with communication. That's why I studied playwriting when I was at school, at college, and whatnot. And I did, I'm okay, you're okay, and reevaluative counseling, and all these other types of communication, looking for something that could change the world. And that's what I heard from Marshall that very first day. The next thing I knew in that class was that the way that I spoke didn't represent my spiritual beliefs at all. And that I was an ace manipulator. I had perfected manipulating people. And that all came, I was going to say crashing down, but was torn down,
Oh,
because there's so many things that are so powerful about this. And one of which is the most powerful way to get what you want is to ask for it.
absolutely.
And ask for it so that if somebody says no, that's fine.
And you get into a game of negotiation.
Yeah, okay, well, what's going on with you? Oh, well, in that case, I wouldn't want to do what I asked either. Let's do this instead. Oh, I think maybe I could do that, but what if we did this? Oh, that'd be even better. Because
Exactly.
once you know what your need is, not your strategy, and you know what the other person's need, strategies just kind of fall out of the wall. And because they're based on your emotions that led you to an understanding of what your need is, like belonging or consideration or being seen, then the solutions that come to you are actually going to solve the problem. Whereas before that, I would be talking with someone, it's not working out, I'd stab for this strategy and that strategy and the other strategy. And eventually we'd agree on one and we'd carry it out. And it wouldn't make any difference because we were fixing the wrong problem. We didn't know what the issue really was. So So I was a traveling IT guy going around spending millions of dollars of other people's money on my favorite hobby, which was groupware and helping people share information. And I got tired of being away from home all the time. So I decided to quit and start a business. And that's what I did. And that's why I was able to go see Marshall that time. Whereas the person who invited me to do this for 3 years in a row, I always said I'd go, and I never had any intention to go. But I'm glad I did, because it really gave me an understanding of why I'm here on the planet,
Okay.
why I have the unique gifts and abilities. We all have unique gifts and abilities, and nothing very special about that. But when I think about how my work as an MVC practitioner and trainer and coach has created so much satisfaction and happiness for people. One of the things you do as an entrepreneur is you keep track of people's feedback forms, and you type them up and you put them up on your website. And it's just heartwarming to read how people have been affected by what I've done.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know about MVC, it's a simple 4-step process where essentially you focus on what we agree on. Not our opinions about what happened, but what actually happened. Not how somebody made us feel, but what our feelings are. And then where do they come from? Because they don't come from what other people do or say, or even from what we do or say.
Sure.
They come from whether or not the values that are important to us are being met or unmet. And then we can rise above the conflict of the story and focus on creating understanding about what's going on with us and the other person or people that we're talking to, and have that great fun of trying to find a way that everyone's needs can be met. So what can I say about concrete impacts? One of them that's strong in my mind is one of the courses that I love to teach is called Language for Lovers.
Sorry, what is it called?
Language for Lovers.
Okay. Wow. Intriguing title.
And it's the number 4 that I put in there, because in every relationship of a couple, there's the man, the woman, the relationship of the man to the couple, the relationship of the woman to the couple. So there are all these relationships that are bound in there, which kind of, that understanding kind of helps us understand why intimate relationships can be so complicated and so challenging. So I'm in one of these masterminds, and all day long new speakers are coming up and somebody's coming up and I'm talking a little bit. And suddenly in the chat, there's this woman who says, Pan is really great. He led a Language for Lovers class for us, and we're still doing what he said 10 years ago.
Wow.
So of course I had to get in touch with her because I had no idea that, even who she was, because we taught that course a lot. And they were nice enough to spend some time with me and talk about what they learned, what they picked up, and how it changed their life. And one of the things they said that made me laugh, and them too, we went to a therapist and they told us we should break up, we should get divorced. But after we came back from your class, we knew that's not what we wanted to do. And that's just one example there. Another example, I was working with a Green Party, which was a very new thing in the United States.
Yeah.
And they had gotten in touch with me, and they wanted to know why they weren't making any changes. So I asked them, well, how are you presenting yourself to people? And basically what they were doing was they were making really scorbic speeches to people to prove how stupid they were not to believe what they believed in.
Wrong approach.
Yeah. So I believed in what they were, what they were about, and gave them these tools, and it shifted things around for them.
Wow.
I particularly love working with nonprofit, soul-oriented groups of people, because it's not only not only how they communicate with each other, but how they communicate with themselves. And there was a group out of Vermont, and I think it's much bigger than that now. It's called 360. And it was created by a guy who realized that if we had 360 whatever measurements of carbon dioxide in the air, we were toast. And so I gave them this training. They were into it. And then, I don't know, it was a couple of years later in a totally different training. And the person who had arranged for that to happen came up and talked to me and told me how much I'd helped them work together and become more effective in what they do. And I could just go on and on with story after story
Imagine.
of how
Wow.
this simple 4-step process, very easy to do once we stop doing what we've been doing since we went to school.
How long does it take for someone, let's say someone that joins a program, to go from A to Z, from being where they don't want to be to where they want to be?
I would say that people come back to me and say, hey, that was a great training yesterday. I went home and I talked to my boss and it worked out really well. Then I went home and talked to my wife and we had a big fight. so it's a process, because what it is, it's rewiring your neural networks. So the hardest part about it is to stop doing what we've always been doing: criticizing, analyzing, diagnosing, evaluating who should be punished, and so on and so forth. These things just create such disconnection. But then once you get it, which is kind of a 4-step process in and of itself, then it just replaces all of that. And you just automatically say, oh, this person who's telling me that I'm a cheat and no good and I've always had bad intention must be in a great deal of pain. I wonder what's up. I feel into what his emotions are. I make a guess. There's nothing special about getting a guess that the person says, yes, that's it, because that's not the point. I'm making a guess about what they're feeling and what they're needing.
Mm-hmm.
And the most dramatic time that happened was in a nonprofit, as a matter of fact. And this person came in and he was screaming and yelling, and he happened to be sitting right across from me.
Wow.
And I made a guess. I'm guessing that this land is really precious to you, and you want to do everything you can to keep it in as pristine a place as possible. And he just collapsed.
Wow.
At last, you understand me. That's just what I've been saying. Of course, not the words he used, but So for me, it took me, I'm trying to remember, I think I was about 6 to 9 months in it when, for various different reasons, my wife and business partner at the time said she was going to leave me if I didn't pay off a $30,000 debt in 2 years.
Wow. Talk
And
about pressure.
Yeah. First thing that came to my mind is, hey, you're the salesperson. Don't blame me if we don't have any sales. I built every website that you sold. And so you don't, blah, blah, blah. And it just flashed in my mind in and out within seconds. And then I realized that what I could say to her is, yeah, coming from your background and the way your family thinks about debt, this is really painful for you. Shoulders dropped, stiffness left. She was heard and understood.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So how can I not do this more? I mean,
Yeah.
how can I not? Plus, Payman, it's just so much fun, Payman. It's so much fun.
So how do you apply that to someone you just met? You don't know their story and all that. How do you use these techniques to have this difficult conversation in a way that not put that person against you, but actually disarms you and make them understand, hey, I'm being heard.
It's for me now, it's pretty simple, but actually I have been doing it for about 18 years now. So
Oh, wow.
don't expect this right away. Whatever they're saying, I make that guess. are you feeling really frustrated because you'd like more choice in what you're being asked to do?
Oh yeah.
So I'm not going back and saying, no, that's not what happened. You misunderstood. The person wasn't saying that, and all that kind of stuff, which had been my previous workbook.
That makes sense. Yes. Awesome. How are you getting your clients?
Ah, man, Payman, that's my biggest problem right now. So for years and years, I've been teaching this, and I had worked out some, promotional copy that I would put up on a website, and it would get sent out to people who were interested in DC. And I could count on, enough people to come to earn $1,000 that day. And now it's not working so much anymore. So I'm looking for new techniques. And I have hired a marketing person to help me with copy. But I think the best thing for me to do is to stand in front of people, to be on podcast, to present myself, not my thin words,
Mm-hmm.
but the way I show up. And my latest, the latest idea from my publicist or my marketer, she's heard me talk about how I've helped people in such ways that I actually came up with a form, because people were coming, hey, my friend told me you're the best therapist in Vermont. And I'm thinking, oh, I don't have any initials after my name. I don't have any, I'm not a therapist. That's not what I do. So I actually had people sign a form to that effect. And then when people are heard and they understand what their needs are and what their feelings are, that's pretty much my job is done. Because for the most part, they come up with what they want to do next on their own.
Mm-hmm. How long have you been doing this business?
I started teaching in 2004.
So 18 years. Okay.
I think so. My math isn't very good.
Yeah,
these
that's
days,
18.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
And you've helped more than at least a couple of people so far, right?
Yes. Yeah. I've got feedback forms from well over 1,000 people.
You know what? This would be, from my perspective, the obvious way to do this. And again, I might be biased because I'm a podcaster myself and podcasting has changed my life. So I may be biased toward that. It's one thing for you to be on other people's podcasts. That's good. It's going to give you exposure and a boost of exposure that's going to be temporarily, because you do not control those platforms.
Right.
Instead, the thing that you need to do, and that I've been doing and that I teach my student, is build your own platform, build your own podcast. And because the podcast will allow you to do three powerful things. One, share your story, because people want to know we are first and foremost as a human being. Number two, display your expertise by talking what you know and by inviting experts, or even better, invite your clients to be on your podcast to share the story in a way that's going to give you a testimonial without asking for it. And also, and this is the key thing, and what I've been doing to not only build my podcast from 0 to 200 episode, past 200 episode within 18 months, but also my current business, and has allowed me to get over 30 plus paying clients, 0 ad spend so far in the last 6 months, just by talking to my prospects on my podcast. Because again, people do business with people they can connect, relate, and trust. And there's nothing better than connecting on a podcast. Podcasting has become the new golf. Before, people used to go, oh, let's play a round of golf, or let's connect at the
That's right. Yeah.
at the country club. Now, hey, why don't you come on my podcast? You can't imagine how many amazing partnership businesses I've started by just two people getting on a podcast, getting to know each other. You come on my podcast, then I go on yours, and that start the friendship, the relationship. And before you know it, none of you will have to do any pitching. Instead, it's going to be a natural progression to transition from just a simple conversation to, hey, what you're doing, that's exactly what I need. Can you help me? Sure, let's get on a call. And that you only do it, that's only possible by two things. One, connecting, having heart-to-heart conversation, getting to know the people. And then number two, inviting only your ideal clients and listeners on your podcast, basically interviewing your prospect. And that's exactly what I teach. I told you about that. If you want, we can talk about that after this podcast. But for
Uh-huh.
someone like you with the expertise you have, you said 18 years and thousands of people, this is a no-brainer. Absolutely no-brainer. I can explain to you,
Yeah,
map out exactly what you need to do after this call, but I have another call in about half an hour. So I have a few
mhm.
minutes after this is done. I can explain to you, can show you the map because this calls for to have your own podcast. As I said,
I agree.
it's
Yeah.
one thing for you to go on other people's podcasts. You will get a temporary boost, but you
Yeah.
don't control that platform.
Oh, I hear you, Payman. Yeah.
But when you
Yeah.
build your own podcast, especially, and again, podcasting is a long-term game. When you do it over, say,
Yeah.
6 months,
Oh,
a
yeah.
year, it's just
Uh-huh.
like a tree. It's like a baby. You need to nurture it.
Yeah.
You're going to water it over time. But after a year and a half, 2 years, that's when the magic starts. That's when people see you in a different light. Oh, this guy has been pretty consistent on his podcast. This is the guy to listen to. And also because when someone listens to your podcast, it's for two main reasons. One, they're interested in your topic. But number
Yeah.
two, and most powerful, is that they like you as a person. And when someone listens to you over, say, a few weeks, they will be compelled to reach out to you as opposed to you trying to chase them.
Yeah.
See what I mean? That's why
I do. I
podcasting for
do.
you is a
Yeah.
no-brainer.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. Yeah. It's, yeah, all I can do is say I really agree. But it's that experience of seeing someone talking about what they talk about that allows the viewer, in my case, watching others, to know and trust that you are who you are.
Exactly. Another thing
You
you
don't
can
get that in
do,
text.
absolutely. Another thing you can do, especially with a previous client of yours or even with a prospect.
Mhm.
Hey, you can do a live recording of you teaching. Use that content as your podcast. That
Uh-huh.
can only be a content for you, but also a tremendously powerful testimonial indirectly without asking for it.
I think that's a really great idea. And here's what I've discovered. Oftentimes there's a whole group of people that I'm working with, and somebody takes time. And then they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I took so much time." And then I say, if you got anything out of the work this person did, please raise your hand. And almost every hand goes up because we have the same needs, we have the same emotions,
Yes,
we're all unique, just like everybody else.
totally.
So it's very likely that if we have a problem with a particular aspect of life, other people and many other people
Mhm.
are going to gain benefit from the work that one
Absolutely.
person has done.
Absolutely. So for you, as soon as you start a podcast, the better it is because podcasting will solve your number one pain point, and that is getting your message across to the exact people that you want to and getting your clients, paying clients with zero ad spend. That's what I've been
Yeah.
doing. I've been able to achieve. That's what my
Uh-huh.
students have been doing. And because podcasting is tremendously powerful, it's all about connecting. Podcasting allows you to share your story, get to know the person and your
Uh-huh.
audience to get to know you.
Absolutely. I'm sold American.
I
Uh,
love that. Love that.
uh,
All right, we'll talk about that after, but let's move on.
okay.
Now,
Yeah.
what would you say is a cause that you're deeply passionate about?
Well, of course, peace,
Mm,
harmony,
yes.
understanding.
Hmm.
These are needs that are very important to me.
Absolutely.
Um, I particularly am attracted to groups of people who are social activists,
Hmm.
who are change agents in one way or another. Um, I also have been thinking about focusing my work on corporations and businesses
Okay.
because two reasons. One, I had a wonderful time in the corporate world because it was all about my favorite hobby, computers at the time. I was able to make a lot of difference with that.
Hmm.
And secondly, because most people spend most of their waking hours at work.
Yes. Not only the most, they spend the most productive time of their day.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's the biggest tragedy.
yeah. So here's the thing: if I can make their work life more wonderful, by showing them how they can use these tools in the workplace, the same tools will work at home. They'll work on the golf course. They'll work anywhere.
Absolutely.
So I have a partner that is teaching in BC at a college out of Vermont, and she's a brilliant course creator. And we've decided that's where we're going to focus together.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Now, to finish off, I'd like to ask a series of rapid fire questions on advices. Ready?
Okay. On vices?
Advice.
Or advice. Okay.
All right. No, that would be two completely different topics. You know, we can do an entire podcast just on that.
That's why I wanted to clarify that.
No. That would be more best suited for, an in-person conversation over a few drinks, as opposed to a podcast. Because I'm sure we would both have some very juicy stories. But anyway, Anyway, so what would you say, Pan, for you has been the best piece of advice you've received so far in your life?
Don't believe what you believe.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. And the reason that's so powerful is that beliefs come from what we do and what we experience. And then we form opinions about what the world is like.
Sure.
And then we grow and we mature and we have different experiences. If we're stuck in the old beliefs, then we are not making ourselves available to the new learnings, the new knowledge, and new ways of being in the world.
Beautiful. Now, what would you say has been so far on the other side of the spectrum, the worst piece of advice you received? Other than get a job.
Other people are more important than you.
Oh, I love that. That is so powerful. Yes.
Yeah, I took that belief. That's why I had the breakdown. Because I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't doing, it's just so much more fun to contribute to other people. But you can't do that forever. You got to contribute to your self.
This one of the most profound discoveries or self-discoveries I had in my life has been that of the most important person in your life is, drum rolls, yourself. And that's not being selfish, because if you cannot take care of yourself, you cannot be the best version. You will not be able in a position to help others and be a contribution, be of an impact. You'll be useless, basically.
Exactly. So you can be selfish or you can be selfless, and both of them are toxic.
Yes.
You can be selfful, meaning you're fully aware of your emotions and what's important to you, and then you're invaluable.
Love that. Beautiful. Imagine that you were blessed with a time machine. You can go back and sit face to face with the 18-year-old Pan at the time, John. What is the number one piece of advice you would give to him, knowing all that you know now?
Oh my God. So if I was talking to my 18-year-old self, I'd say, congratulations, you fulfilled your vow, which was to go out and have as many different experiences in the world as you possibly can. But the advice that I would give you is spend more time taking care of yourself. It will allow you to help other people more powerfully.
Love that. Love that. Now, I know you don't have your podcast yet, but imagine you had your podcast and today you're interviewing the most special person in the world, which is yourself. What would be what would be the first question you want to ask yourself? Don't think too much. What's the first question that comes to your mind?
Well, Pan Vera, thank you so much for showing up here. Tell me, what makes life wonderful for you?
And in a few words, what would be your answer?
Oh, contributing to other people, teaching them how to know and love themselves. And once they're there, their ability to know and love others is going to skyrocket.
Love that. Love that. Now, the last question, and that's my favorite question. What is the smallest thing you've done that has had the greatest positive impact in your life? For example, for me, it's been starting my podcast. And by small, I don't mean something small. I mean the one thing.
Yeah. All kinds of stuff is coming to the fore. So I'm just going to click one that I'm choosing probably because of the weather. But it was deciding to hike on the glaciers in the Cascade Mountains.
Oh, wow.
And walking across frozen ice and seeing nothing but mountains, no roads, no towns, no cities, and recognizing the beauty of the planet just being here.
Mhm. Absolutely. And that must have also allowed you to realize the fragility of life, because one misstep and you're gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Amazing. Listen, Pan, beautiful conversation again with you. If someone wants to connect with you, what's the best way to do so?
I would say the best thing to do is go to lifeserving.com,
Okay. Yeah.
lifeserving.com, and you'll learn a lot about me and find ways to get in touch and um, the classes that I teach and reach
Beautiful.
out, because if you're in a part of an organization and communication is not going as smoothly, getting in the way of whatever it is you're trying to do, I can help based on my experience and this very simple tool that's so easy to understand, so difficult to do
Mhm.
because we have to create new habits. But it is, my publicist came up with this. It's the most powerful communication tool on the planet.
Sure. Absolutely. Listen, Pan, absolutely phenomenal connecting with you again. I salute you. You're a true leader with a heart. Keep shining your light. Keep blessing the world with your presence, with the impact, with everything you're doing. Stay safe, stay awesome. God bless you, my friend. Take care.
All right. Thank you very much, Payman. And I love what you're doing. And I'm just thrilled to be part of your podcast.
Pleasure's all mine. That's what I do. I love connecting and bringing and showcasing heart-centered
Yeah.
entrepreneurs who are building beautiful, impactful business, and you're one such person. So it was a natural thing for me to bring in. Actually, this was long due because we connected a year ago and we hadn't been able to connect, but finally we made up for it. So I'm happy.
All right.
Take
Okay.
care. Bye bye.
All right. Bye-bye.